on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being, I don't care if I make the World Cup roster or not, and 10 being, holy crap, we're less than 2 weeks away from me finding out if I'm going to represent my country at the World Cup, and I'm so nervous because it would be a dream come true, so it's hard for me to concentrate on anything else. Where would you be on the scale if you were in our player pool? Because I think this weekend is the biggest of the weekends, because next weekend, I feel like Greg Berhalter's already made his decisions.
Yeah, I mean, this weekend is, I just go back to, again, my cycle where we had like a week or something, 10-day camp or whatever it was, where like, it was like the last tryout. And that one was weird because you're in and amongst the group and then being like selected or not selected. And I always knew I was on the fringe as it was. And that one seems more stressful than now, where it's like, you're just controlling what you can control in your club scenario. And at least like, you don't have to fly to Chicago and get yelled at by the Chicago fans being called a USMNT reject while you warm up at halftime the day after.
Here we go, therapy session.
So when I think about that, I'm like, it's a pretty good. I think it's the best case scenario for a lot of these guys. Although you would wish the team could be together before the World Cup and spend some time together in a way that they won't now. But they've got to all be nervous. But I have a feeling Greg's having conversations and it's fluid. I think. So
he's breaking hearts behind the scenes instead of doing it in front of your face.
I don't know if he's breaking hearts behind the scenes, but I mean, because look, there's no way, like you can't give the news too soon, because we've seen already, right? Matt Turner's got a little bit of a knock. We saw Luca De La Torre's got a knock, like so. But you are having conversations at least to know that, like, hey, you're on the, like, at least the 4, 5, 6 players that are on the fringe, and then the rest you can say, like, pending injury, you're in the team. And I think that's a way that you have to do that, because the mystery could be kind of overwhelming, right? So I think focusing on your club and focusing on these games at hand, knowing that you're, what are we, like, I don't know, 8 days out, 10 days out from the roster selection. It's got to be pretty nerve-wracking, regardless of how anybody tries to play it off as like, oh, I'm just chilling, focusing on me. And you're like, nah, man, you're not sleeping at night.
So where are you scale? Where are you on the scale then? You at 10, or where are you if you're one of the guys?
I mean, Jimmy, I only know my own situation the way it was, and I was a fringe player. So, like, when it came
that would be
to
a
roster
10.
selection,
yeah,
it'd be a 10 for sure. Like, I would be pretty stressed out. But the world is much more connected than it was a decade ago, and so I think about that through that context of like being able to know like how you're actually playing versus like people being like, well, I don't know, kicker gave him a 3-star rating, so he must be doing okay in the game. You know what I mean?
We all know that you want that.
Build tabloid going like, oh yeah, he looked pretty good out there, but what's up with his shoes? And then being like, cool. That works.
That special text relationship with Mike Sorber. I know you always wanted that. Charlie, where are you on this scale?
Hey, hold on, real quick, Jimmy. I just realized with my denim jacket I've got on, like I'd like to be Hollywood Heath Ledger Pierce now. I almost said Conrad.
Yeah. All right, I'll add Ledger to your
or Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, or Gyllenhaal. Yeah, there's for those that can't see what Heath is wearing, he's got a denim jacket on, and it's got
straight off a mountain.
It's straight off a mountain. We'll go.
Hey,
there. Charlie
anybody
Davies,
that's in tech, you gotta keep the tech cold. You got to keep the studio cold, and so that's why I got the jacket on.
Charlie, where are you on the scale? I assume you're, as a normal human being, you'd be nervous at this point. And this is a big weekend. When we get into where the players are playing and who they're playing against, this is a really stiff test for some guys that could really dictate whether they make the team or whether they're going to be starters, right? There's different levels to why you'd be nervous, I'd say.
Yes. I would say it'd be more excitement than nerves. So I'd probably be more on the three range, 3 to 4, in terms of just making sure I'm healthy and I'm fit, but I'm excited. I wouldn't have any doubts of making the roster if I were in some players' shoes on the outside looking in. If I was a Sam Vines or
Joe Scally,
I am on a 10. I'm on a 12. But Yunus Musa, Weston McKinney, Tyler Adams, you're going, but you just want to make sure you're fit. You're 100% ready to go. So there's the nerves of, I just want to make sure I don't get injured in the 5 games left before we head to Qatar. And then there's the, oh boy, I'm playing in my first World Cup. I get to represent my country, and we have a real chance to get out of this group.
Okay.
What about you?
Well, no, I'd be nervous. I'd be in the 10 range for sure. Very similar to Heath. I was a fringe player, so I was definitely never entirely comfortable that I was going to make the team. And so I needed that confirmation on Sports Center by Bruce Arena to actually see my name in lights that before I could really believe that I was.
Hold on, Jimmy.
Gonna be there.
On that, was there ever a time where there was another camp coming and you were like, was there a window where you were like, yep, call up, not even thinking about it, don't need to know? Remember, because they used to send out the preliminary roster in an email, and then you get the final roster. Was there ever a time, and I know I went through it almost every time I was like, man, I hope I get to that next roster, right? Was there a time where you felt that you had that comfort? I mean, coming out of a World Cup or going into a World Cup, Charlie, how about you? I mean, we'd all been in and out of national teams throughout our 10 years, but was there ever a time? I mean, we know Charlie's window of time where he was like, yeah, I'm not worried about getting
maybe January camps.
Well,
yeah, I wasn't.
Yeah, my first January camp. I was sitting there waiting, looking at my email, like, all right, come on, let that invitation come through. And then when you see it, similar to your first cap, you hear, that there's a possibility that you could be coming in. You're on 12, sitting there waiting and hoping. And then when you see it come through, and then I've been on the opposite end where you don't get that email and you're like, like it stings, it hurts. But all you can do is say, all right, I gotta keep going.
And to us on the outside, sorry, Jimmy, I wanted to say for us on the outside, looking at those moments, it's the difference between you and another player is so incremental, right? In your mind. And now for us as fans, like we could pick apart Zimmerman versus Long versus McKenzie and Eric Palmer Brown and all of them as defenders all day long. But when you're in that pool and you have that mentality, no matter who gets called up over you, you're still never going like they're better than me, right? And maybe that's the boundaries you create, but like that's the hard part is that when you don't get selected, it's never because you're like, oh yeah, that guy's better. Very rarely is that the case where it's like, whoever's competing with Landon Donovan for 15 years gets to say that. But anybody else is kind of like incremental differences between selections.
Yeah, no, I like that. And it's a nice segue into a tweet that I saw that I want Charlie to address, who didn't address it in our group text because there's a lot going on. Charlie's at Destination Brooklyn on Paramount Plus for the Champions League, rubbing shoulders with Thierry Henry, amongst others. And somebody, as I was sifting through stuff, doing research throughout the week, there was a tweet where somebody said Charlie Davies wouldn't even sniff being on this World Cup roster. And I was like, I gotta hear from Chuck about this. Chuck, what are you saying? What? Like it wasn't even he might have had a chance, but I don't see him. It was like he wouldn't have a sniff to make this World Cup roster. And I need to hear from the man himself, Charlie Davies.
Well,
the mic is yours.
The funny thing is I did see it, but I was like, I'm not taking the bait here. Like, what do I have to prove? Charlie,
Jimmy jumped in the water and took that bait right away, and then just brought it all.
I didn't respond to it. I just saw it and put it right into our group chat.
I would say Charlie 2.0 would even make this roster, right? That was me on 1.5 legs because my right leg was 1.5 inches shorter and I was injured. I think especially in that 2014-15 range when I was in the best version of my new self, when I had to, I adjusted to the limitations my body had. I was a different type of player. I still think I would have made this squad. Maybe might not have started, but for sure I'm on the plane to Qatar. Charlie 1.0 before my accident. Come on now.
That's another way of saying suck it, haters.
Like Charlie's saying that this roster is the worst one in the last few World Cups is what basically Charlie's saying.
And this was the thing that came out of the Paramount Plus when we were with Thierry Henry and he was asked which generation is better. And he was like, it's not even close. It's the generation to my left. And that featured Clint, myself, obviously Mo Do. But what I was saying is, yeah, that might be right now. Our generation is better because our generation is done. We did our thing. This generation has the potential to be better than us. That's not even a question, but they still have so much potential to fulfill yet. It's not done. Right. Where they're starting from is far greater than we were. But we had character. We had different players who had these attributes, and it all worked well together. And it was a grind, and we were very adaptable to whoever we were playing against. We knew when we were better, we could keep possession. We had players with flair. We could do all that. Versus when we had to play Brazil, Spain, Argentina, whoever it was, we rolled up the sleeves. We go, this one's not going to be pretty. If we want to win this game, we got to change our style of play, and it's a real team commitment. And we were able to do that. It was that flexibility. This team's still working through that. I don't have any doubts that they have the players and the potential to overcome all of us, but it's not a given. We all know that.
I love that insight because I think ultimately, when I scrape away everything that you said and try to break it down into 1 or 2 words, it's just we have a lot of unknown about this team. Okay, we've seen some evidence of it in certain games, World Cup qualifying, Nations League final, whatever it is. But we won't know until we know. And that's when the World Cup comes and the whistle blows, and we're going to figure out exactly who we are and what kind of character we have within this group and what that means for 2026. So we can talk about it and speculate it, but we won't know until we know.